the night Ethan Miller realized his family had already decided his future. He was standing in his childhood kitchen, holding a paper plate that felt heavier than it should have, still bouncing around, smiling like it was harmless. The room laughed before Ethan could answer. Thanksgiving at the Miller house in suburban Ohio was always loud, always warm, and always uncomfortable for Ethan. The house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon. But beneath it sat an old truth everyone pretended not to notice. Ethan was the disappointment. At 31, he had no impressive title, no house, no polished story to tell. His older brother Jason had everything Ethan didn't to sharp suit. A confident voice and a career that people respected the moment he mentioned it. Jason's wife talked about renovations and investments. His sister Claire flew in from Toronto and spoke about her life like it was a highlight reel. And Ethan listened. He sat at the far end of the table, nodding, smiling, letting jokes pass over him like rain. He had learned long ago that defending himself only made things worse. Silence was easier. Then Jason raised his glass. To another year of growth, Jason said, eyes sweeping the table before landing on Ethan for just a second too long. Some of us grow faster than others, but everyone moves at their own pace. More laughter. Ethan felt his chest tighten, but he smiled anyway. He always smiled. Someone asked the question he knew was coming. It always came. So, Ethan, his cousin, said, "What are you doing now?" The room quieted just enough to hear his answer. "I'm working on my own thing," Ethan said. Jason leaned back. Still, that single word hit harder than any insult. Ethan nodded. Yeah, still. His father cleared his throat. "You know, stability matters," he said. Not unkindly. You can't chase ideas forever. Ethan wanted to say that he wasn't chasing anymore, that he was building. He worked mornings, nights, weekends, but he believed in what he was creating even when no one else did. Instead, he said nothing. Minutes later, he stood up quietly and stepped outside into the cold November air. The backyard was dark and silent. Frost clung to the grass. Ethan sat on the wooden steps, breathing slowly, trying to calm the familiar ache in his chest. It wasn't anger. It was something worse, a tired kind of sadness that came from years of being seen as less. His phone buzzed. A message from Lena Harper. Let me guess, it read, "Family dinner." Ethan smiled for real this time. Yeah, he typed back. Same story. They had met 2 years earlier at a small coffee shop near downtown. Ethan worked there on weekends to cover rent while he built his design business. Lena came in every Thursday morning, always ordered the same drink, always left a generous tip. One day she noticed his sketches scattered near the register. "You draw?" she had asked. "High design," he had said, unsure why the difference mattered. She had listened, really listened. Not like his family, who heard his words but never trusted them. On the phone, Lena's voice was calm and warm. "You okay?" "I will be," Ethan said. "Just needed air." "You don't owe them proof," she said gently. "You don't owe anyone proof." "I know," he replied. Then, after a pause, "But I want to prove it anyway, just once." To myself, there was silence on the line, the good kind. "Then promise me something," Lena said. "Promise you won't quit because they don't see you yet." Ethan looked back at the house, glowing with light, full of people who loved him but never believed in him. "I promise," he said. That winter was the hardest season of Ethan's life. He worked 3 jobs: coffee shop mornings, warehouse shifts twice a week, freelance projects late into the night. Every spare moment went into his small design studio, which was really just a desk in his apartment and an old laptop that overheated constantly. Rejection emails came daily. "Not the right fit. Impressive, but we're going another direction. We'll keep your work on file." Some nights Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if his family was right. Wondering if he was wasting his life chasing something that would never come. But every time doubt crept in, Lena was there. She brought soup when he got sick. She sat on the floor while he worked, reading quietly. She reminded him to eat. She never rushed him. Never compared him to anyone else. "You're not late," she told him once. "You're just early to a different path." Ethan held on to those words. By early spring, his savings were nearly gone. The pressure felt unbearable. He considered calling his father, asking for help, proving once again that he couldn't make it on his own. Then, one Tuesday morning, an email arrived. The subject line was simple: design inquiry. A mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago had found his portfolio online. They wanted to talk. Not a test project, not exposure. A real contract. Ethan read the email 3 times to make sure it was real. His hands shook as he replied. The call happened that afternoon. They liked his ideas. They liked his approach. They liked how he understood people, not just visuals. "We'd like to move forward," the voice on the line said. When the call ended, Ethan sat in silence, heart pounding. Then he laughed. Then he cried. He called Lena immediately. "I think," he said, voice breaking, "I think this is the start." Lena laughed through tears. "I knew it," she said. "I knew you'd get there." That contract led to another. Then another. Slowly, steadily, Ethan's life began to change. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in real ways. He moved into a better apartment. He replaced his laptop, stopped checking his bank account with fear every morning. But he didn't tell his family, not yet, because something inside him had shifted. He no longer needed their approval to keep going. He had something stronger now: belief. Still, deep down, Ethan knew the day would come when they would notice. When questions would replace jokes. When the roles at the table would change. And when that day arrived, Ethan wasn't sure if he would feel proud or finally free. That moment was closer than he realized. Ethan Miller never expected the day to come when he would walk into his family's house and feel entirely different. The moment arrived on a crisp spring morning when an invitation landed in his mailbox, embossed and formal. A family reunion. At Jason's new home in Seattle. He stared at it. Then at Lena, who had been sitting on the couch with her sketch pad, quietly drawing. "You're going," she said simply. "Not for them. It's for you." He knew she was right. He had spent years trying to earn their approval, but now approval didn't matter. Success had come quietly, steadily, built from late nights and unshakable belief. And he no longer needed to prove anything. The plane ride was a blur of thoughts. Ethan remembered all the nights he sat in his apartment, worn out from work and anxiety, thinking about this family. The same house where he had felt small and invisible, where his brother's jokes cut too deep, where his parents' polite smiles felt like a reminder that he had failed. And now he was about to return, but he wasn't the same man anymore. He carried himself differently, not with arrogance, but with calm confidence. A quiet strength that came from surviving and building something real. Landing in Seattle, he felt the familiar tension rise, but Lena squeezed his hand, reminding him that he wasn't alone. As they drove through tree-lined streets, Jason's house appeared, large and modern, polished like a magazine feature. Ethan's chest tightened. For a moment, but he focused on the fact that this time he wasn't looking for validation. He had his own life, his own achievements, and someone who truly believed in him. Jason opened the door before Ethan could knock, smiling with that confident grin that once intimidated him. "Ethan, look at you. You made it," Jason said, clapping him on the back. The warmth felt familiar, but Ethan didn't falter. He smiled, nodded, and stepped inside, letting Lena follow. The living room was full of people. Faces he remembered from childhood, cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends. They greeted him politely, curious eyes taking in the man he had become. Conversations paused briefly as they scanned him, noting the way he carried himself, the subtle confidence in his posture. For the first time, Ethan didn't shrink under their scrutiny. He simply existed in the room, calm and composed. Jason leaned in. "So we heard about Chicago." His voice was casual, but Ethan sensed the curiosity behind it. "I'm doing well," he replied simply. "Not numbers, not boasts, just the truth." Jason raised an eyebrow, but didn't push further. Instead, he smiled and left it at that. The dinner table was set beautifully, filled with the smells of roasted meats, fresh vegetables, and desserts that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Ethan sat down, Lena by his side, and for a moment, the old tension bubbled up. This was the same table where he had been ignored, judged, and quietly dismissed. But now he noticed something different. The energy wasn't the same. He had changed, and that made all the difference. During the meal, his father cleared his throat. "Ethan," he said, voice slightly louder than necessary, "we heard you've done some work. Some success, right?" The subtle awkwardness in his tone betrayed curiosity and perhaps a touch of envy. Ethan looked around the table, seeing the shift in expressions. No one was mocking. Everyone was waiting for him to explain himself. "Yes," Ethan said, calm and steady. "I have." His mother's eyes softened. "We always believed you'd find your way," she said, almost shyly, as if she didn't know how to express herself. Ethan didn't correct her, didn't need to. The acknowledgement was enough. The recognition had nothing to do with proving a point. It was a quiet closure to years of doubt. Conversation continued, but the dynamic had shifted. People were curious, yes, but there was respect now, subtle and unspoken. They asked about his work, his life, the projects he was building. Ethan answered simply, honestly, without exaggeration or boast. He spoke about his designs, about helping small businesses tell their stories, about building something meaningful. And Lena sat beside him, smiling quietly. Her presence, a calm reminder that this life was his, and he didn't need anyone else's permission to enjoy it. Later, after dinner, Jason pulled him aside. "You really are different," he said. "More observation than judgment. You stand taller. Confident, calm. I didn't see that coming." Ethan just smiled. "I'm not trying to impress anyone," he said. "I just live my life." Jason nodded, thoughtful, as if seeing his younger brother for the first time. As the evening wore on, laughter filled the house. Stories were shared, memories recalled, jokes made with warmth rather than edge. Ethan noticed something he hadn't expected. He felt lighter, freer. He wasn't carrying the weight of judgment anymore. He was simply present, fully himself. Later, standing on the porch, the Seattle skyline in the distance, Ethan breathed deeply. Lena leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. "The difference?" Ethan nodded. "I don't need their approval anymore. Doesn't realize it until now." They watched the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel invisible. He felt seen, not because others noticed him, but because he had built a life he was proud of, with someone who truly believed in him. The journey hadn't been easy. Years of doubt, rejection, and quiet humiliation had shaped him. Every email of rejection, every dismissive comment at family dinners, every late night wondering if he was failing had pushed him to work harder, to persevere. And now, as he stood there, he understood the truth. Success wasn't just about recognition or money. It was about becoming whole, about living authentically, about building love and life on his own terms. Ethan looked back at the house, remembering the boy who once sat at the edge of the table, small, unheard, and underestimated. The man he had become smiled at that memory, with bitterness, but with gratitude. Every struggle had brought him here. Every moment of doubt had taught him resilience. Every night of quiet determination had led to this life, this love, this peace. Lena squeezed his hand. "You won," she whispered. Ethan smiled, not for his family, not for validation, but for himself. He had survived, grown, and built a life that mattered. And as the night deepened, he realized something profound. He didn't need to be the hero of anyone else's story. He was the hero of his own, and that was enough. That night, as they walked back into the house to join the laughter and conversation, Ethan knew that the years of feeling small had shaped him, but they no longer defined him. He was whole, happy, and in love, and nothing anyone could say would ever take that away. For Ethan Miller, proving himself wasn't about showing his family. It was about becoming the man he had always believed he could be, quietly, patiently, and with unwavering determination. And that, more than anything, was the victory he had waited for all his life. The life he built, the love he found with Lena, and the strength he discovered within himself, all of it was proof enough. He didn't need applause, recognition, or congratulations. He had everything he truly needed: purpose, love, and peace. And in that moment, standing on the porch as stars began to appear, Ethan understood the most important lesson of all. The only approval that truly mattered had always been his own.